Minnesota Office of the State Auditor presents the Schedule Form, Deferred, Deferred Interest Rates, and Other Payments tabs. This online training session will discuss the deferred interest rates, and the other payments tabs of the Schedule Form, or SC Form for short. The purpose of the Deferred tab is to determine the liabilities for each deferred member of the Relief Association, while the Deferred Interest Rates tab provides one convenient location to enter interest rates for deferred members. The purpose of the Other Payments tab is to determine the liabilities for each member of the Relief Association who is receiving installment payments. The SC form uses the member liabilities from both tabs to calculate the surplus or deficit amount and the required municipal or independent fire department contribution for the following calendar year. Before beginning these tabs, there are a few required documents you will need. First, you will need a roster of the Relief Association's active, inactive, and deferred members. Next, you will need a birth date, entry date, and a leave of absence amount for each member. You will also need a copy of the past and current Relief Association's bylaws. Finally, payment information for any members paid during the reporting year is also needed. If last year's SC form was submitted before downloading the current year's SC form, much of the member data on the Deferred tab will be pre-populated. Please review the pre-populated data to ensure accuracy and make corrections or updates as needed. If a member was previously active and became deferred during the reporting year, change the member status on the Active tab to Deferred. Do not delete the member row. Then navigate to the Deferred tab and enter the member's name in the first empty box exactly as it appears on the Active tab. When the name is entered exactly as it appears on the Active tab, the member's birth date, entry date, and leave of absence amount/break in service amount will automatically display. The rest of the information in this row will need to be filled out to get rid of the red error messages. Start with entering the member separation date. If the member was a return to service member, click on the arrow and select Yes from the drop-down menu. A return to service member is a member who resumed active service after a break in service or a leave of absence, and the member's service pension or benefit will be calculated according to a return to service bylaw provision. Next, enter the annual benefit level in effect on the date the member separated from active service. Continue by entering the minimum number of years required for vesting and the vesting percentage amount. These numbers should come from the bylaws in effect on the date that the member separated from active service and must comply with state statute. In the next box, select Yes under the drop-down menu if the Relief Association's bylaws provide for the payment of months of service. If the bylaws do not provide for the payment of months of service, select No from the drop-down menu. Finally, determine if the member is eligible to receive deferred interest. Review the Relief Association's bylaws that were in effect on the date that the member separated from active service to determine the deferred interest type and the credit method offered. Select Yes under the Deferred Interest Paid column if the Relief Association's bylaws offered deferred interest when the member separated from active service. If the bylaws did not provide deferred interest on the member separation date, select No from the drop-down menu. If the member is eligible for deferred interest, select the deferred interest type offered from the drop-down menu in the Deferred Interest Type column and the Interest Credit Method from the drop-down menu in the Deferred Interest Credit Method column. Moving on to the Deferred Interest Rates tab, if the Relief Association's bylaws provided for a deferred interest type with a variable interest rate, this tab will need to be completed. Deferred interest types with a variable interest rate includes Relief Rate of Return, OSA Rate of Return, or Board Set Rate of Return. Please be aware that the Relief Rate of Return and OSA Rate of Return deferred interest types are no longer authorized for newly deferred members. If the Relief Association does not offer deferred interest or offers an interest type without a variable interest rate, this tab does not need to be completed. If last year's SC form was submitted before downloading the current year's SC form, much of the deferred interest rate data on the Deferred Interest Rates tab will be pre-populated. Please review the pre-populated data to ensure accuracy and make corrections or updates as needed. Please also note that due to the redesign of the SC form, some of the prior year interest rate information may not be pre-populated on the Deferred Interest Rates tab. The Relief Association should review its records to ensure that the correct interest rates are entered in the applicable rows and columns. For deferred members that are receiving deferred interest under the board set rate of return up to 5% deferred interest type, enter the current year's deferred interest rate in the board set rate of return up to 5% column. Note that the current year's interest rate for members receiving deferred interest under the relief rate of return and OSA rate of return deferred interest types will automatically populate based on the projected investment income that is entered on the Financial Projections tab of the form. Please also note that the current year interest rate is an estimate only and will need to be revised when the next year's SC form is completed and when the actual rate that was earned for the year is known. Returning to the Deferred tab, the form automatically calculates the current and following year's estimated liabilities after the required information has been entered. If the estimated liability for a member displays a # value output, please review the member's information and the deferred interest rate data before proceeding. This output indicates information needed to calculate the liability amount is missing. If the deferred interest type offered in the Relief Association's bylaws is separate account or separate vehicle, you will need to enter the reporting year estimated liability manually. Notice that the form automatically calculates the estimated liability for the following year after the liability amount for the current year is entered. If a deferred member returned to active service during the reporting year, change the member's status to return to service. Then navigate to the Active tab and enter the member's name in the first empty box exactly as it appears on the Deferred tab. When the name is entered exactly as it appears on the Deferred tab, and when you choose Active as the member's status, the member's birth date, entry date, and return to service indication will automatically populate. Enter the cumulative leave of absence or break in service amount in months. If the member has not yet received a service pension for their prior periods of active service, please ensure that the member's entry date is the date they initially joined the fire department. The leave of absence and break in service column should be the total number of months between the member's periods of active service and any leaves of absence they may have incurred during their career. In the return to service column, the answer yes displays to indicate that the member's service pension or benefit will be calculated according to a return to service bylaw provision. Returning back to the Deferred tab, if a member received their service pension or benefit payment during the year, change the member's status to paid and enter the member's name and liability in the Projected Benefit Payment section on the Financial Projections tab. When a member's status is changed to paid, the form automatically removes their liability from the Deferred tab, and the amount instead needs to be entered as an expense on the Financial Projections tab. After adding the payment amount to the Financial Projections tab, the form automatically subtracts the total from the projected net assets. This ensures the accuracy of the surplus or deficit calculation and that the member's accrued liability is not double counted. Moving on to the Other Payments tab of the SC form, the purpose of this tab is to document any installment payments the Relief Association is paying. Please note that the ability to pay pensions in a number of annual installments is an optional payment method and must be included in the bylaws before installments can be paid. If last year's SC form was submitted before downloading the current year's SC form, much of the member data on the Other Payments tab will be pre-populated. Please review the pre-populated data to ensure accuracy and make corrections or updates as needed. Begin by entering the names, birth dates, entry dates, and separation dates for all members receiving installment payments. If a member began receiving installment payments during the reporting year, make sure to change the member's status to paid on the active or deferred tab. This ensures that the member's liability amount is not double counted. Then enter the amount previously paid to each member in the amount previously paid column. Next, add the member's current year liabilities to the form, which will be equal to the member's total earned service pension minus any amounts paid in previous years. Enter the member's liability amounts for the following year in the same manner. Keep in mind that the liability amounts should include any applicable interest. The form automatically totals the estimated liabilities at the top of the page and incorporates them into the grand total special fund accrued liability calculation on the Financial Projections tab. If a member receives the final installment payment during the reporting year, change the member's status from unpaid installment to paid and enter $0 in the current year and next year liability amount columns. Then, enter the final installment payment amount in the Projected Benefit Payment section on the Financial Projections tab. After adding the payment amount, the form automatically subtracts the total from the projected net assets. Members with a status of paid will not be included in the pre-populated data on the following year's SC form. This concludes our training video on the deferred interest rates, and the other payments tabs of the SC form. To view all SC form training videos from our home page, visit the Fire Relief Association's page, and under the Training Opportunities box, click the button View All Training Opportunities for Fire Relief Associations.